What's going on, everybody? Geronimo22. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, and want to make a video that talks about coverage types and really kind of just gives you an overview of what Zando talked about in his video from my perspective. Good to have him back. Hope he keeps making videos. I know he motivates me, kind of gets my brain going about certain things. And also, I love to explain things like he does, and maybe I can give you a little different perspective, all right, from my coaching in the NFL and college. All right, so let's just start with the three basic coverage types that you see when people play defense, all right? First thing is zone, the second one is man, the third one is match, okay? Zone coverage in general is really just all about vision and break, okay? It's about allowing your players to get back to spots on the field, see the ball thrown, and come up and make a tackle, all right? One of the bad things about this thing is that there's more space and larger windows for the quarterback to throw the ball. So in the NFL, you don't see it as much versus teams that like to spread out, because quarterbacks can kind of spread you out, throw the ball inside, and get it to wide open guys, because they don't need that much room to put it on somebody's body. Compared to college and high school, if a quarterback's arm is weak and not accurate, you can play more zone, okay? Because going back to the pluses, when the ball is thrown, instead of it just being one defender like it would be in man coverage to maybe make a play on that ball, there are converging players from all over the field running towards the football. So if the ball is tipped in the air, it's going to be a higher percentage, there's a higher chance it's going to be intercepted. Also, with more people running to the ball, you're going to get more tackles, more hats to the ball, as we say, more guys hitting the ball carrier. So if he is to get hit a lot, then maybe there's a chance of a fumble that can happen. And if a fumble happens, now let's say the left corner, who wasn't really close to the play, sees the ball on the ground and goes and makes a play, compared to if it was man coverage and he's just running down the field covering his man, he may not see the ball. Okay, so it's a really good advantage that way. But however, the windows are kind of, bigger when it comes to the pro game. The no cover zone is pretty much one of the main ingredients of playing zone defense. You don't want your players to feel like they can't be successful, right? You have to tell them something to make them feel like they're doing their job. So I know Zando gave an example of can't be right. That's not really the way football players look at it when your coach puts them in, let's say, cover three sky, okay? There's an imaginary line called the no cover zone, which is really the first 5 yards of the, the first 5 yards of eligible field between the offensive line and the defense. So if I just came out there and somebody ran something like shark halfback wheel, right, versus cover three, this underneath the drag route technically is not supposed to be covered until the ball is thrown, okay? If that route gets 5 yards, the defense is okay with that, right? It's not going to be a problem. So that's something that the defense is looking at, that the defenders are actually dropping back, trying to cover the deeper part of their zone. So if I had to look at this right now, ball's on the 30, right? The underneath coverage here in this cover three sky is really, these guys are responsible for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, back to about 15 yards, right? So pretty much from, let's start really at the 6 to the 15-yard mark is around how much area they should try to cover depth-wise, vertically, and they're going to drop back and get their depth. You can see the corners, the flat defenders really getting back and playing with more depth. Now you guys can control this in the game by doing what? You can change the depth of your underneath defenders in cover three by playing over the top, by playing outside leverage, and also by actually just turning off the natural assignments and using the coaching adjustments and putting their depths to 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way back to 30. So you could do that. And then now what you're doing is doing what? Giving up the underneath throw, but yet you still want to rally and tackle. Okay, so good zone teams have players that are run and hit players, okay? Guys that have high hit power that are going to cause more fumbles, right? These are the things that you got to tell yourself and build in your brain that, hey, we're running this defense, but we're going to give up yards, but we are going to get more turnovers. If you don't do that, then you feel like you're not really doing anything, all right? So just kind of wanted to talk about that. The two main defenses that you can run that are zone are cover three and cover two. And there's a lot of different variations of how you run your cover three. I did a video on that yesterday, and also your cover two. Especially in today's game, there's a lot of cover two defenses that are not your traditional Tampa two anymore. It's more of your two invert, okay? So we'll talk more about that later, but just want to let you know zone is a good defense to use if the offense is in a position where they need more than 5 yards. So that's why you see it run on first down more, right? You see it run on third down and 10 long, situations. You can spot drop and play these defenses where the offense needs a lot more than 5 yards. Don't run it on third and two. Don't run it on fourth and one because you're going to be in a bad spot. Now, there are examples that you can change your zone leverage and play underneath coverage. You could take that chance, right? But then you're giving up everything else. So it's a little bit high risk, high reward that way, but that's pretty much the goal of zone and when and how you want to use it the right way. Okay, let's just jump now into man. I'm not going to really talk about man too long because it's pretty obvious, but I do want to give you some coaching points. The best thing about playing man coverage is the contested throws. Okay, so a contested throw is basically meaning that when a ball is thrown and caught, there is a defender close to the offensive player. So a guy, as they would say, draped all over his body, right? When they get to their break point in their route, the defender is standing right next to him. This puts pressure on offense to execute perfectly, for the throw to be exactly where it needs to be. This is the advantage of playing any type of man coverage, and it just puts pressure on good quarterbacks to make throws. A good quarterback would rather probably play against zone coverage than man coverage. Okay. That's just in general. The bad thing is that predictability is a big part of it, where if you're a quarterback, you pretty much can tell if a defensive man coverage in real life, either it be by the DB's eyes or just glued on the belts of their wide receivers, to using motion where you can kind of unmask the coverage by putting a tight end or a running back out wide and knowing who follows him. There are little things that an offense can do, so they know you're in man coverage. So there's no really kind of like mystery. All right. Then the last thing is make sure your matchups are good. So if you're going to run this coverage, make sure you have the guys. If you're going to play this style of defense, do not play this style of defense and actually have slow players that can't keep up with the opposite players, right? Make sure your guys are better. All right. One thing just overall though, in the NFL, I would say man coverage used to be king. It used to be the way to go. And the reason why was because the formations that you were seeing, in my opinion, this is my opinion, the formations you were used to seeing back in the day were more just generic, right? So I will jump on the field for this. You would get 2x2 in Indianapolis, right? You would get I formation with the Cowboys. You would get basic things where there were no real hard alignments that the corners had to get into. But in today's game, you're getting more of the compression stuff, right? You're getting more of bunch formations, right? And in Madden, the same thing. I mean, if you go up and play against a competitive player, they're going to come out and use cheat bunch formations, which in real life, it is a challenge to actually play man versus that. Now, in real life, we do have more tools to be able to in and out people and work some of our stuff where we don't get picked or, as they say, rubbed. But in real life, though, we can make tools. But unfortunately, in the Madden world, you're kind of stuck, kind of being in a bad spot if you play a lot of man coverage versus compression sets. And in real life, currently in NFL, you're seeing less man coverage because of the same reason. But if you do want to play man this year, two man has always been a really good coverage. So now you're getting that hybrid of two deep zone defenders that are playing true zone, and then you're getting a five underneath hard trail technique players. This is a good defense this year. Cover one hole, unfortunately, is not what it used to be. Even cover zero, all out blitz, it's not as great as it used to be. You can kind of use some of the bracket stuff that's in there now, the one doubles or the double brackets that has been worked on, and it is a lot better than what it used to be when it first when it first was released this year. There's been a lot of improvements on that. So that actually does do a good job of keeping leverage and playing certain routes pretty well. Okay. All right, so let's move to the last piece here, the good old match coverage. Everybody wants to talk about this. I think this is where, you guys who will follow me know that I am a big believer of match coverage. I coached it a lot when I was coming up, and I do believe it is kind of the intellectual coverage of Madden. It really kind of makes the life hard for a lot of people. It is the best of both worlds, okay? And simply put, it just means that we're playing man basically if you're running deep, and we're playing zone if you're running short. Simple as that, okay? There's more to it, but that's what match does. I have the chalk last on defense, okay? The minuses are it is a complex and heavy, rule heavy system. So you don't want to run match coverage and also try to run everything else in the world. Most match teams are pretty much just sticking in match coverage primarily, okay? And maybe dabbling with something else. And then one coaching point is one play touchdowns do happen in real life, guys. So when you see people talk about it in the game, I know they're manipulating the game. A lot of the pro players, they will try to manipulate and try to break the game. And that's not, I do not like that. I'm just going to be honest with you. But at the same time, it actually is a situation where I'll put it like this. If an offense knows you're in match coverage, they could potentially break your rules. This is where like somebody like Kyle Shanahan and Michelle McVay from their years of coaching have really probably been different than most offensive coaches. They understand defense. They try to, okay? And they want to get in there and they want to understand what are the rules and match coverage out of box that's going to allow somebody to get wide open, right? So they're going to run double moves or certain concepts that are going to make somebody get wide open. But let's just go back to the advantages and disadvantages of this bad boy. If you call three match, right, and you don't know what the formation is, so let's just get cover three, and let's just say we get a team. They come out and you're a normal 2x2. They give you four verticals. This defense is going to match everybody down the field on the vertical, so it's going to look almost identical to calling cover one, right? They come out 2x2, and now they're going to give you a mesh concept in the middle of the field. Well, cover one is not good versus mesh, so we're going to now play cover three. If you see that, that looked like three sky, right? We get one side of the field that's going to go vertical, and we get the other side of the field that wants to run something shallow, right? So now we go with the left side of the field is playing zone, the right side of the field is playing match man coverage. So it's the beautiful thing. Offense wants to come out, kind of mess around with you, get into a tight formation. Well, when in tight formations, we're going to play zone coverage now. We're not going to play match cover. We're not going to play man. All right. So most people that get into tight formations want to run across the field. All right. Or they want to break outside. Zone is better for that. Okay. So this coverage overall gives you the best of both worlds, allowing you to take away routes as they happen down the field. It's almost like running an option play on offense or running the run and shoot where you have option routes. It gives you the advantage on defense to have the chalk last. It just takes some teaching, all right? And you have to understand that. And if one player makes a mistake, there's a great chance that there's going to be nobody else that can recover to help out that player deep down the field, okay? So look at it that way. When do you use match coverage? When do you use man coverage? I never really talked about that, but in the NFL, man coverage is usually still the number one call on third down. Again, third and short, you want to put a body on a body. Match coverage is more of it could be any down coverage. That's the great thing about it. It could be used in any situation. I still see it used more on first and second down. Again, you want to be able to take away their best plays when they might happen. On third down, most teams still rely on man coverage and mix in some of the match and or zone coverage as a changeup. Okay. But just want to make sure you guys are all on the same page, how to use it. If you're on the Madden field, I end it with this. Honestly, and I think Zandel said this, a guy who doesn't really understand offense and actually runs his offense like that and runs plays that don't make sense, that don't have progressions, play zone coverage, especially at the beginning of the game, right? Let just let him make his mistakes. Let him throw the checkdowns. I know in today's world that kind of builds some confidence, but I've played games against people where I've let them throw the 5 yard drag all game until the fourth quarter and taken it away and have ruined their playoff chances. I've seen other people do that too. So you can play three sky all game, right? And then switch into hard flats at the last second. They're going to throw it to that guy that's been there all game. Why wouldn't they, right? And they may not be used to it. Another thing is using the coverage shells. You can play zone coverage and make it look different just by using some of the coverage shells. So that's going to make somebody post snap have to try to read the coverage, making it harder for them. And if they don't have confidence in their progressions, or another example is if I'm playing somebody that wants to throw the ball in the same area all game, some people love to throw the ball between the hashes. They never throw the ball outside. And then some people love throwing the ball outside and never like throwing it down the middle. So I can now play certain zones and probably user that area and try to make the right play and make a good defensive play. Okay. Um, Man coverage, again, when would you want to use it? When you know you have the matchups, when you're pretty sure it's going to be vertical routes. And then match coverage, if you're going to call it, you're probably calling it most of the game because you are used to what you are seeing. You are confident in your own ability to call the right defense versus the right formation. That's part of match coverage. So you're going to want to call cover 6 versus certain formations, cover 9 versus certain formations, and you feel confident about that, and you have your changeups, and you feel like you're going up against a good offensive player that is going to be able to make good reads, and you want to take away some of those reads quickly with some of our matching elements, okay, and make them have to go to their second and third read. So I think that's my overall viewpoint on this. I think we're almost at the 20-minute mark. If you guys have any questions or if I missed anything on this stuff, let me know. I think this is a really good topic just to talk about these three things. And then once I get a chance, I'm actually going to go and start showing you guys a little bit of route concepts from a defensive point of view when I was in the NFL, how we broke down what people were doing. Because all this stuff is really good to learn, but I know you guys want to have success on the Madden field too. And we can do both in this channel, right? We can have fun learning real football and also beating some guys that aren't even sim. And I kind of admire Zando doing that, jumping on and playing against these non-sim players um, in random games because I want to break down what they're doing. Even the competitive players, we can put them in categories and we can find ways to realistically stop them. I guarantee you. And we will do that going forward. So I'm going to teach you some stuff that I've learned about how to break down what somebody's doing on offense in the passing game quickly, put it in a category, and then have an answer, which is really the toolbox that I've been talking about as of late. But really being able to just have that conceptual idea of when somebody's doing this, conceptually, I should be doing this as a counter. Hope you guys have a good holiday. I'll talk to y'all later, man. Peace.